friends, welcome to our virtual event, Charting Tomorrow, a conversation on implications of ethical AI. My name is Helen Teplitskaia. I am a founder and president of Global Alliance on Sustainability and AI. The acronym is GASAI. I founded GASAI in March 2024. We are a nonprofit organization, at this point, just a startup. I invite you to visit our website, GASAI.ai, to learn more about our organization. Our moderator, our dear fellow GASAI team member, Testi. In the event description, there are lots of his affiliations. He is an owner of multiple companies, but it's thanks to Tom, to a great extent, that we gathered here today to launch our first in a series of events addressing ethics of AI and thinking wider responsible AI. So Tom, the floor is yours. Please introduce the speakers and launch our adventure into the ethical implications of AI.
All right, thank you, Helen. Matt, why don't you spend, since you're going to be our lead-off person right now, why don't you spend a minute, tell us about yourself and about the HR work that you do and how how you work with AI.
Sure. Well, first of all, happy to be here and excited to hear what everyone else has to say. If you're making me go first, then I will humbly say, I've 25 plus years. I'm a lawyer in Colorado, the United States, although in my current job, I don't practice law. I run a software business for the North America group. It is an HR tech company, so we have 5 million users, 100 different countries, and really have spent my career around both law, consulting, and HR in and around technology. So our company is called AdvantageClub.ai. It was co-founded by UCLA engineers that were AI engineers before AI was a thing 10 plus years ago. And so we use generative AI. More relevant to this discussion, I just got back from HR Technology Conference on a lot of panels. And as we all know, everything is paneled around AI. So seeing what trends are occurring in the workplace and then both the good and the cautionary around those trends we're seeing. So, I can get into more in depth about what the trends are. Another piece of this is I am active with a couple different legal nonprofits. So there are some ripe cases right now around bias and around privacy and copyright. All those, I think, are all tie into this idea of, the good and the uncharted all around AI in the workplace.
Well, that being said, how do you see AI technology as affecting your work as it is?
Yeah, so again, I'm going to defer to higher ground. The trends, there was all the major consulting firms were at the conference, right? 2,500 folks. So Josh Bersin was one of the keynotes, and he said, hey, look, here's the things we're seeing, right? He said, first of all, AI will dominate the HR function. That doesn't mean it's going to replace human beings, but it will certainly supplement, and a lot of these administrative tasks will change. But the three buckets, I think, Tom, that we're seeing is number one on the hiring, talent acquisition space, meaning the idea of, hey, we can use AI to screen people. We can use AI to help with interviews. We can use AI to help with job descriptions, right? And then the next gen, because of AI, is really looking at, do we need these job descriptions? Where are we getting pools of candidates? Why don't we just look at skills? So I think the second bucket is really getting rid of the idea of, I'm searching for this job description with these skills and this experience and moving towards this kind of talent marketplace. I think that'll be a buzzword that's developing. And what that means is, hey, Cameron, 10 years ago, he actually did some project management coding in this area. That's not his current role, but he's had that experience. And you know, we got Helen and Nick, and they both have done something over here. So we're creating this group, you know, around our skills. So that's one area. The other area is simply saying, hey, you know, a US based, we just got a huge job report today, and employment is still 4.2%. So it's still a tight job market. It's not as tight, but that means, hey, we have to retain people. So to retain people, what are we seeing? Well, we're seeing a couple of different things. One is to retain people, people want to be heard, especially Gen Z and millennials. And they want some form of development. So we're seeing a lot of innovation around learning and development platforms, and it's called reskilling as well as upskilling. So before I go out and look for a new job, I've got Cameron, Nick, Helen, you know, and I can go to a skills base and I can see who to fill that. Or I can say, hey, look, we know we're going to need this individual in this capacity, and I'm going to offer some certifications. So if you come to me and you say, I'm doing marketing, but I'd really like to do finance down the line, we can set up a skills path or development path, give you certificates, and get you moving towards that path. So I think that's another big area. So at least in terms of the hiring and the skills based, and there's a few other ones in there, but let me stop there. So AI is underneath and on top of all of this.
Do you have a question, Helen?
No, I just wanted to be proactive and make sure that I can see something, because I cannot unmute myself. But I just want to very quickly comment that, in my humble opinion, you know, the human factor is really at core of the ethical AI. Once AI goes beyond human control, by the way, control is now a very, very serious factor in responsible AI development. And this, I would say at times, abuse of AI, because it becomes trendy. It becomes like a must. And it has to be used, I think, with the soul, with the heart, and in a very intelligent way.
I think that's right. And I'll just tee up for the rest of the team. But as it relates to HR, the good news is we're saving lots of time and we're unlocking a lot of value with people in HR, and we're unlocking value in the organizations. The downside is there's bias, right? And there's privacy concerns. So, you know, big case, it was Baker versus CVS. That's still in the courts, and that's where CVS was using HireVue and artificial intelligent facial recognition software to screen candidates. So you can automatically understand, hey, I got hired or I didn't get hired, and I was biased for whatever this AI did. Likewise, you know, in New York, they had an automated employee recognition or recommendation tool. So you can just imagine what data is going in, you know, how are we using that? And is there, you know, subject to all sorts of AI related bias around that? And then with the privacy, you know, the big case there is the Mutnick versus Clearview AI, where they said, you know, here was this Clearview awesome technology that was getting billions of images and doing facial recognition. And so a gentleman outside Illinois said, hey, wait, you don't have the right to pull off my image, right? And so it went up to, got consolidated. So I think all of these issues, not even ethical issues, but actually legal issues, are going to continue to evolve with each of this innovation, because, you know, the train's left the tracks, right? The can's open. And so all of a sudden we're trying to figure out, hey, in terms of not only ethics, but gosh, the legal component here of how do you regulate, where should we regulate? And when these things are done, how do we litigate this stuff around
We
the
have to move
bias?
on, unfortunately. I'm sorry for interjecting. I just wanted to very quickly acknowledge that we have Enjan Loft, and one of the events that we will organize in the near future will be dedicated to data governance. Because, Enjan was a senior vice president of Citi until like last several days in charge of data governance. And, this goes hand in hand with what you just covered, Matthew. And I hope we'll have time for questions, because I think our participants will greatly appreciate to know how you can engage the employees about the positive impact of your platform on employee engagement and consequent enhancement of this collaboration between AI and humans. Tom.
Okay, let's move on to Adrian. First, take 30 seconds to a minute and tell us about yourself and what you do.
Definitely. Nice to be here. So I'm Adrian. I am currently leading a technology company in advertising. We are based in Europe. We are servicing clients worldwide. Around 50 million users have been either serviced by 50 million people have been affected or impacted by our advertising worldwide until now. We hope for the best. We hope we did it better than whatever has been happening until now. And indeed, we are involved working with AI models for around 7 years already. So we are also in this conundrum between, do we want the corporation or the company to have the advantage? Should we focus on the consumers to actually be respected? And where is the fine line between these two? So I think this most probably in the digital industry or in the digital era, having so many signals and so many data points about consumers, where do you stop? Where do you draw the line between being relevant, helping the consumer to take the right decision, and actually manipulating and having bias within the models? So I think that what Matthew just said until now, it's totally available or happening currently also in the advertising industry, might be even a bit more, as we don't, again, when you're doing advertising, you don't have to see each CV or you don't have someone to apply to. You're actually running after them wherever they are.
Yeah. So how do you see the marketplace for you changing in the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you think the most impact within the publishing and marketing space to grow?
So in our case, I think being in Europe, which is a bit more regulated, more privacy, consumers are a bit more protected. One of the things that we actually approached was to increase productivity and accelerate the output of our own people. So we are happy we looked at our productivity per employee, and we are around 3 times more than the average market, which means we've invested in technologies, AI models, and platforms that can automate more, which basically enables our own colleagues to do more. So it's not a matter of surveillance. It's not a matter of making sure that the consumers are manipulated. It's a matter of doing better, faster, under a compliant and ethical environment. What I see definitely happening is that there is a lot of lack of transparency in how the data is sometimes gathered. So how it's used, how it's gathered, the consumers are never educated in this direction. So we are trying not to touch any personal data from this point of view in order to be ethical and in order to be, from a legal perspective, also protected, GDPR and California Act and everything. I also think that in terms of privacy, how they collect the data, where is it stored, where is it used, again, there's a big gap of clarity in the next years, how it's going to be used from a privacy perspective. But what we definitely encountered when using generative AI models in advertising, generating communication with it, it's a lot of bias. And this is because when you train a model, you will also train it with the mistakes of the past, to call it. So the AI model will just accelerate and sometimes actually become even worse than what a human being would generate in front of the computer, because it will just literally learn from the past and accelerate the learnings, which means accelerate the mistakes as well. So I just to give an example, if you're going to ask generative AI models to, I don't know, put a CEO in a banner, you're going to see a specific type of person. If you tell them a nurse, you're going to see a specific type of person. So the bias is there, and it will be there as long as the data that's trained on will generate more bias. And if we don't stop this acceleration of seeing the wrong things, then indeed I think it's a huge problem in advertising in the next 5 years, the bias that it can generate.
Yeah,
But more interestingly to me, I think it's the fact that, and I think Helen pointed it very well in terms of accountability and transparency. So accountability of the models, accountability of what AI is allowed to do, who controls it, how, why, and what's the level of controlling this. So who owns the model that becomes extremely, I don't know, extremely biased? Let's not use even more powerful words. And this is something that currently it's completely missing also, the regulation. Who does what when the model goes wrong, completely wrong.
Right.
So the next 5 years are definitely going to be a splurge of numerous AI models, numerous new AI technologies. So it's going to explode, and then we expect a consolidation in the next 5 to 10 years, in which the best ones will remain available, and they're going to start eating up the market share.
Right. When you say about the automation, do you see, like in the sense of publishing and in the sense of marketing, everything being streamlined, or do you see jobs being lost, or what do you see?
I believe that white collar in advertising that will not understand how to use AI to accelerate their jobs, they're going to lose their jobs, unfortunately. So indeed, they need to up their skills, up the learning curve, and understand how to use it. In terms of automation, just to give you an example, it's been already 7 years since we've built one campaign for one beer with 50,000 different automated creatives done by 2 people. So yes, the automation is there. I mean, it's been in the last 7 years, so I expect it to continue happening. AI to actually let you think, let you build a strategy, let you try to be different, to be competitive. But all the menial tasks, all the execution, all the content generation will be done more and more by AI.
Okay.
I know situations with 100,000 videos, different videos. And I think on Matthew's the topic, I'm not sure if you probably know I think it was 2 days ago, the news that appeared that they fired the entire HR department in a corporation because they used AI combined with some strict rules. They made a mistake in what it was searching for, a technology specific, and they literally, no CV was passing by, not even the CEOs and not even the senior engineers already in the company. So if you're not using it right, it can go very fast wrong. And so they literally fired the entire HR department in that company when they realized how it's used, how bad it is used for the future of the company.
Okay, I want to move on, and we can kind of come round robin back afterwards. Nick's the vice president of Draft to Digital, and I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, hey guys, I am the vice president of a distribution company for independent authors. So we take a book. It's not a publishing company. We take any book and we send it out to a bunch of stores around the world, saving the author from having to do tax interviews and any particular country requirements for these stores. I'm also an author. I would say first and foremost, because that's how I got into all this stuff. I'm an author first and foremost. I write thrillers. I'm very much not in the world of ethics, but I'm realizing that we all are anyway, right? I'm not debating this stuff. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, talking to companies about how to ethically approach this, but we're all human, and ethics is a human question. And so I'm sort of trying to help authors understand. So my bottom line, I was taking some notes here. My bottom line, kind of what I like to tell authors, is that I don't understand this stuff. so I don't use it is no longer going to be an excuse, right? That's, I think, the world we're living in. I said this when I was on a panel with Cameron a few weeks ago. There's not a thing in my world, in my business, in my personal life, almost, that isn't touched by AI in some way. You know, if I'm complaining on Facebook about something, that's an AI model that's running an algorithm, right? And so there's just nothing that isn't touched in my professional life, and therefore it's really important to have these kinds of conversations. It's really important to be able to consider this, to think about this from different ethical standpoints. So I hope that kind of, by way of introduction, lets you know who I am. I feel woefully unqualified to talk about any kind of detailed ethical, sides, but that's the important part. That's what I think why it's good that we are, because everyone should be talking about this.
Right. Do you see any negative aspects within the scope of your business per se? Is it going to help? Is it positively going to help your business, or is it potentially negatively going to help your business?
I mean, it's absolutely potentially has some negatives. Now, the thing is, it's not all positive or all negative. When I say it, meaning AI, and that's sort of where we authors typically are. And I hate painting with a broad brush, but a lot of us authors sort of feel it's either good or bad, right? It's either good, or as Matthew said, there's some questions here. There's potentially some conflict with what we do. It's not that, and that's why it's hard. There's so much gray area. As you were saying, Adrian, there's this idea that the data we're getting out is getting fed back into these large language models, and eventually it's going to churn out less and less quality content. That's certainly a negative. That's certainly a downside. If we're using it to help aid us in marketing or advertising, or not, in my case, writing a blurb, for example, then yeah, I want the best potential output that tool has to offer. But from an ethical standpoint, who is controlling that model eventually? If there is a model, I know OpenAI just, is kind of moving toward this idea of now they want to do an artificial super intelligence. Okay, well, they just bypassed the AGI thing. We can talk about that or not. But it's interesting to me because that by definition cannot be owned by a human or a corporation. That's the whole point of it. That brings a lot of ethical questions into this. And so for me, for a lot of authors, I think 2 years ago, we could say, hey, ChatGPT is pretty neat. I don't want to use it. It scares me. I don't understand it. I don't think we get to do that anymore. I don't think we get to exist in a world as a creative where we can say, I won't touch AI, or I refuse to understand it. So that's sort of my message to authors and a lot of these creatives is, I get it, and there's definitely a reason to have this ethical conversation, but I don't think we get the excuse of, I don't want to use that, because it's so prevalent and it's becoming more pervasive, for better or worse, maybe both.
Okay. Now you said you use it primarily within the scope of your writing. What challenges have you had in working with, implementing it within the scope of your writing?
Well, the challenges right now, when it comes to creativity, are this isn't a human, and this, if it were a human, it's not me. And so trying to, use it to craft fiction is just kind of a non-starter right now. It doesn't write the way I write because it's not me, it's a very, very smart, generative text thing. What's the next most likely token to come out of this thing, that this prompt that he put in? But it's not at the point where I can trust its creativity or tone or voice. That being said, we might get there very, very soon. We might get to a point where you can go on Amazon and order a book written in the style of Nick Thacker. And so the challenge for me as an author then is, well, hopefully they're paying me for that. And then secondly, hopefully I'm in the system. For newer authors getting started today, I want to write a book. I've never done this before. I'm afraid that if that's the world we're going to live in 5-10 years from now, they may not have a chance to get their work fed into that model that spits out, content. I don't know. But that's one of the challenges among many. And I said, I use it in my writing. I use it as an editor. I dictate most of my books, so it cleans up my transcriptions for me. So there's some really cool uses that work very well, and that I have no problem using. And as long as it provides me the output in a cleaned up format, it's still my own writing. But as I said, it touches everything in my business. As Adrian was talking about, I run ads. I run a lot of ads. Monday is my ad day, and so I produce a bunch of images made by Midjourney. I've gone through all the stock photos of the man running away, for my thriller covers. So I need to use something now that produces new stuff. And Midjourney's been great for that. Leonardo, any of those image editors. I've played with music, AI tools. You probably can't see it. There's guitars on my wall over here. I'm a musician as well. And so all of this creative output that I do, I'm now playing with AI, not to replace what I do with it, not to replace the cathartic, response of playing music, but to see how it might aid me or assist me in doing what I do better. So for me, it's a net positive, right? To answer your question. But again, the ethical question is, at what point does it get better at playing guitar than me? So I don't need to do it anymore. And is that a bad thing or is that a good thing?
Yeah, no, that's all fair in the questioning. Um, have you found any limitations at this point in using AI?
Well, sure. Again, it comes down to if I'm trying to use it in a more creative way, it's not there yet. These tools that we're talking about. It probably will be, though. I really believe that we're going to get to a point where these ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it is going to be able to create fiction that captures the human essence in a way that, a computer never could before.
Right.
Right now, it can't do that. So that's a big limitation.
Okay. I'm going to let Cameron jump in here for a little bit. And Cameron, tell us about yourself and your company and what you do and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, yeah. Hey, so nice to meet you, everybody. My name's Cameron Sutter. I'm the CEO of a software tool called Plotter, and we help writers. So I work with Nick a lot. We help writers to plan out their stories, and we're in the process of using AI to add new features to this and trying to figure out where AI makes sense, where it helps authors, where it's more of a tool versus a toy, and we're trying to make it a tool for authors and not just a toy that is fun to play with for a little bit but doesn't help you. So my expertise is I'm a developer, and so I understand the technology of AI and trying to figure out how to make it useful for creatives. So that's where my expertise lies. And one of the things that I like to talk about is that this is not true AI. It's the buzzword, right, that we use, but it's not really artificially intelligent. There's no reasoning happening going on. It's just a good next word guesser, is what I like to call it, a slot machine for words. And recently, though, I kind of was challenged on that, and I think in some ways, I'm actually wrong about it not being AI. And let me explain that, because there's this test in computer science that's been used for decades called the Turing test. And it was used to test whether or not a computer could trick someone or convince someone that they are a human. And nothing has ever passed this Turing test before. Nothing has ever convinced somebody that they're a human until recently. These large language models have been able to finally pass that Turing test. And so, and I just learned that recently, actually. And so it's kind of a question of our oh, I see some things happening here on the screen. Our measuring stick may be wrong, actually, or is it wrong? And that's something that we're trying to figure out as creatives. This sounds like a human. It makes people think that they're a human, but is it really artificially intelligent? What's it mean to be intelligent? And those kind of things. So it's bringing up a lot of those kinds of questions. And so I have been telling people, it's not AI, but maybe it is. According to the old standard, it is AI. It does pass that Turing test. So that's something very interesting. Some other issues with writers is what should it do for writers? We're trying to create content that is supposed to be be very human, be an experience for people to go through, the hero's journey of them learning and growing and having these cool experiences. And if an AI can do that better than us, like Nick was saying, what's our purpose? And so a lot of writers right now are kind of freaking out, thinking that AI is going to replace them, that they're no longer needed, that they're no longer useful. And is that true or not? But one thing I've been thinking about as we've been talking here is that there is this difference between it creating the content and it supporting the content. And Nick has told me this a lot, that he uses AI for, marketing, book blurbs, descriptions on Amazon and so forth. And so all that, the Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff is the supporting the content and getting the content out there. But the AI is also being used to generate content. And in some cases, it does pretty good. In some cases, it sounds pretty horrible. But creatives are really pushing back against that, or at least some, I don't want it to create the content for me. Maybe it can support me in what I'm doing, but I don't want it to do my job, take over my job. And one thing I like to say is that I feel like the AI kind of missed the point. It should be washing the dishes, doing the laundry, and those kind of things, instead of taking our creative tasks. It should be doing the things that we don't care about and that don't really use human creativity, so that we can do what we're good at and be more creative. And so I'll stop right there, see if you have any questions, but those are kind of some of the challenges and worries that we're facing.
I have a question for you, Cameron. While getting ready for the event, we kind of tried to explore the kinds of synergies that might exist even between our today's panel participants. Because one thing that is absolutely clear, that nobody can do it alone, and that only collaborating globally between all stakeholders, and I mean all stakeholders, you can start from government officials and go all the way to all the executives, to employees, to school teachers, to academia, to the media. We only can do it together. It's not going to happen. AI is not going to be responsible if we don't control and demand transparency from the developers. And it's pretty horrifying how murky it currently is. We're waiting for this, demo days when we are surprised with new products, but we have no idea how our data is used, what kind of policies are going to become laws. And, European law, the laws in the Middle East and the United States and Africa, it all has to somehow be harmonized, because AI does not know any borders. And, this is what bothers me personally. This is one of the reasons why I founded this Global Alliance on Sustainability and AI, so we can stay sustainable and, humanity doesn't suffer. But coming back to Nick, I recall we discussed how businesses can use your platform. Because from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's not just applicable for the authors.
I think you meant to say Cameron.
Yes, I'm sorry. I meant to say Cameron. I'm looking at Cameron. Sorry. Of course, Cameron.
I was starting to sweat. I'm like, okay.
Jump in, but I meant Cameron. Thank you so much, Tom. Because your platform, from what I realized, could be used for marketing, for advertising, and even today you can have a collaboration developed between Omniperform and Platter platform. To work more productively, generating content using the platform, and segmentation, and all kinds of art implications of advertising and marketing. Because again, this kind of collaboration is critical between all of us. But legal issues, one of the very first board members who I asked to join was Alex Dufour, who is a lawyer, because I'm clueless, no matter how much I read, but I was clueless about the legal implications in addition to ethical. So we do have an attorney in our team, but Matthew, consider yourself invited. We will not let you go, because it's very impressive how you are able to combine this legal and ethical aspects. And we do want you to say a word or two about the engagement of employees in the process, because without this being a two-way street, it's really counterproductive, because there are cases of sabotage I know there were cases of sabotage when it pertains to cybersecurity, when internal leakers leak, and you can have swarm system. If Stefan Napo is still with us, like multiple layers of cybersecurity, but you can have one bad actor from inside and the data will leak. The same might pertain to AI, when some disgruntled employee might actually sabotage the use of AI to make sure. And now we just, I think, are ending the crisis with the port workers who actually went on strike because of automation. And what is automation? What kind of automation is possible these days without AI? So it's all interconnected. And, it would have resulted in the global economic crisis, right? So there is so much to think about the ethics.
Cameron, I do want to bring up one point, and in full disclosure, I've known Cameron. He lives in my same town, and so we get together periodically. But you had looked into you had the idea that of doing your own LLM using voluntary people to submit their novels, so you could build a ChatGPT style system that wouldn't infringe on people outside. But you had some problems with that, because I'll let you finish the statement.
Yeah. So the idea was, so a lot of creatives feel like their work has been stolen, or other writers, their work has been stolen in order to train these LLMs. Now, the courts say that that's fair use, and so there's no legal standing for these people, but they feel jaded. They feel like their work has been stolen or is going to be stolen in order to train these models. And so my idea was to create a new model that was only trained from the ground up on novels and works that people have opted into, that they have to submit their work to, and hopefully the idea was that they would get paid from the use of this model. And what I learned going down that rabbit hole to figure out how feasible that would be, it was the cost was enormous. So to be able to pay enough writers to get enough novels, I mean, it's in the hundreds of thousands, if not more, novels. And then the GPU, or the compute costs, would be also hundreds of thousands, if not millions. And so, it would be possible if I had maybe some venture capital, but for my current business, just not possible. So it's very, the amount of effort and cost and data that has gone into training these models is gigantic. And it really put a new perspective on it.
Okay, at this point, I would like, I know there was a question in the comments about EU has regulations and US doesn't have the regulations. And I think that's kind of the purpose of ourselves and others, is to get stuff going. Am I right on that, Helen?
Absolutely. We do have Boris Roginski with us, who is our VP of Responsible AI and Ethical AI in Global Alliance. We will have a special event dedicated to legal implications. Today we're talking about ethics, and I really would like us to focus on the ethics aspect of it, because legal is a whole different world. And the US actually is imposing its own laws and regulations, and there are lots of drafts that are being currently under consideration in Congress, in various committees, and we're expecting elections. And these elections, depending on the outcome, it will be very different, probably, in sense of approach. So I intentionally don't want us to go into, I will use the word pontification rather than speculation, because we shall see what we shall see. And after the elections, it will become much more meaningful. I know.
I was going to say,
Yes.
you guys have heard each other speak now. If you have any questions for me or for any of the other panelists or Helen, just speak up. And if anybody in the audience has a question, raise your hand, and you can do that by going to the React button at the bottom, and it'll show you how you can raise your hand, and we'll get to that. Anyone?
I mean, during this time, I think one of the takeaway points is that Helen actually has the chance to build a cross-border alliance that will actually work, because as Cameron said at the very beginning, there was a lot of noise. AI is going to come, artificial intelligence is going to think for itself. People are going to click a button, lead my company or build my campaign or launch my book, and it's going to work. Now, after 2-3 years of investments, they realize, wait, it's not really what we thought it is. So it's not artificial general intelligence or super intelligence. So we have time to actually make sure that everything that's happening now can be fixed before it becomes general intelligence. So I wish you're gonna manage to get everyone together at your level. But we probably have at least 5 years until it becomes less controllable than what's happening now. For now, it still builds people with 7 fingers. It still has problems. So it still has its own issues because of what it's learning. So hoping you're going to be able to accelerate an ethical aspect of what an AGI should do, a general intelligence.
I think we can only do it together. I can't stress enough that only together we can make sure that it's actually controllable. I will respectfully disagree with you, Adrian. I don't think we have 5 years. You know, as we speak, AI projects progress. One thing I can promise you that our nonprofit AI alliance will remain nonprofit. As you know, unlike some of the other nonprofit AIs, which received, you know, billions to be created and developed, and now are going, changing their status. I'm trying to be polite. You know, I can assure you, it's my word to you that I created it as a nonprofit organization, and it will remain nonprofit. We all are in business. We all have our projects in addition to this nonprofit startup. But what unites us, and we are growing. I can't tell you how thrilled I am that within last couple of days, my network, you know, grew, and I am excited beyond belief that we have people now from Microsoft, Responsible AI, from Google, from Meta, and we will have a series of events, you know, because today was just a launch. It was our idea to have this talk. Maybe we'll have a conversation over a cup of tea or coffee, you know, in respect of our friends from the Middle East. I won't suggest a glass of wine, but you know, a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, you know, for informal conversations, and for all of us to strategize. What can we do to help actually product developers? Because I was stunned seeing how many people come up when you type in Responsible AI, Microsoft in LinkedIn. But we don't know what's going on. We need more transparency, not to know their IP, you know, intellectual property secrets, but we want to understand where are they going, where are they taking us, and what can we do to make sure that they don't lose the track, that nobody is left behind. So I'm asking you, please, you know, I can't stress enough, this event is just a starter, it's a pilot. Send us your ideas to info@GASAI.ai. Please visit our website. It's so easy to remember, GASAI.ai, and you'll learn more. But send us emails with your ideas and with your suggestions, if you want to become a speaker, if you want to help us organize the event. And we are moving towards the direction of going beyond virtual. But for now, it's probably the best way for us to go, to develop and grow. But it's people like us who will make the difference. I strongly believe in the butterfly effect when, each of us has a say in how the world will develop. So please make sure that you remain engaged. And, in closing,
we have a question.
Yes, I want to pass the floor to Tom to handle the questions, please.
Okay, Hugo.
Okay, hi, good evening everyone from Nigeria. My name is Ugo. Sorry, my video is not turned on because I'm currently on transit. So my question basically is very straightforward. Currently, I work in marketing and I'm a very perpetual learner. And to be honest, I must give it up for Helen for really putting this event together because there's a whole lot that I have got to learn today. So my question basically is, I've seen how advanced artificial intelligence is in the likes of America and the Europe generally. So my question is, how can, for somebody like myself who is a perpetual learner and who is just learning about AI, how can I be at the frontier? Because one thing that can help me as a marketer, help businesses stand out is if I learn advanced things regarding AI and the like. So are there resources that you can share? What can you do to help me advance and learn more about artificial intelligence so I can be at the frontier and understand these things a lot better? So that's my question, basically.
Who wants
Who
to
would
take
like to answer? Who wants to answer?
Cameron, do you want to go from a technical perspective? I can go only from an understanding perspective. So you want to give some ideas on the technical side?
Adrian, why don't you start from the technical and,
Sorry.
Ugu and I are connected several times a day. I already offered him the internship. So he is already de facto a member of the GASAI team as an intern. But in sense of technical, please share your ideas, because I can tell you, I have never come across a more responsible young professional who, as soon as I make a comment, Ugo, who is in Nigeria, and I'm in the US, and there is obviously a time difference, reacts like this. So he's amazingly hardworking. And there are so many people like him. I just participated in the event on the World Economic Forum, Africa AI discussion. And there are millions of talented young professionals who should be factored into AI-related workforce. And I think we in the Alliance will try to facilitate these efforts to make sure, I'm sorry, I have to repeat myself, so that nobody is left behind.
Yeah, I'll answer just quickly from the technical side. I would start by learning how to program first, just learn a programming language. And then you can learn how machine learning works and transformers and things. But so I would start just very basically. But there's other things that probably other people are more expert at. So I'll let either Adrian or somebody answer.
So I think if we connect to what Helen said earlier, there are numerous teams and people developing AI training models and AI training programs within all the large corporations. So at the very first top 10 searches in Google or Bing or Copilot or wherever you want to search, you're going to find all the free trainings about how you can approach AI, what's a model, how you can use them, what it means to develop a model, and so on. So if I were to start today, understand what AI is, I would literally take maybe we could use the word oligopoly of the largest corporations fighting for the supremacy with the best models, Google, Microsoft, Meta, all of them. just search for the free trainings because they have numerous ones and they're developing pretty great content in understanding what AI is and how AI will influence the future. So just Google them, just take the best ones from the largest companies, and it's going to be a great start.
And there is free Coursera. I'm currently taking a course on deep learning. And I have a screenshot of how last Sunday I passed a test, 100 out of 100. So if I can do it, everyone can do it. I promise you. So we'll share more. But I want to share with you the most exciting thing. I've never seen the event growing in attendance as time goes on. Usually people leave. I see that every minute participants are adding. I'm absolutely elated about it. Thank you all who joined us today, because as I said, it was a pilot. We prepared it in less than a week. It's such an exprompt. And I want to thank Tom, Testi, first of all, for daring to do it. A week ago, I thought that we are crazy to organize it in less than a week, and it worked. By the minute, the number of attendees is growing. I wish I could see all of their faces. I don't know how. I'm asking you, please send us a note about how we did. What is it that you didn't like? Give us feedback, please. Positive, negative. We invite you to share your ideas about the future events pertaining to AI. Of course, ethical AI is our new series, but there will be other directions that we will analyze about the legal, about AI in defense. I just had a conversation with the OSCE organization, healthcare. Sky's the limit for us, but we don't have the time. Adrian said we have 5 years. Adrian, we don't. I love everything you said. This is where I most respectfully disagree with you, because the growth of AI is explosive. Nobody will wait for us. And with the open AI going corporate, it's very indicative of how we cannot rely on just the ethics. It's business, and it's up to us to protect ourselves and to protect humanity. So info at GASAI.ai is via email, or ht@gasai.ai. And of course, we are all, pretty much all of us are on LinkedIn. Tom, you did a great job. Our panelists, thank you so very much. I wish I could hug you. Our team, I love you all. We will have so many more events, and I congratulate all of us with this launch, because it shows to me we didn't lose a single person who would leave the event. And I see that people are joining us every moment. I hate to end it, but like with every fairy tale, with every movie, it has to come to an end on a high note. On this fantastic note of huge success and really great feeling that I think we'll share based on what we discussed today, I invite you all to continue this journey together, and let's work on it. It seems that it is mission impossible, but it is not. If we do it together, we'll win. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Love you all.
Bye.